So pretty much 6 days of discussion, and it will not be completely one side of kind of thing. So each day I will be speaking something around 35 to 40 minutes so that you get some initial theory or whatever. Then the last 15 to 20 minutes, it's open to question and answers. So that means you obviously have some doubts and we can discuss that. If no one has any questions, I will ask specific questions so that if any of you know, you can tell and we can discuss. So we can keep it in that way interactive. So first 3 days, I'm going to discuss on general basics of AWS with respect to EC2. I mean, AWS is like a big ocean. So we'll discuss some various concepts of EC2, ELB, S3, various things, and how do you talk about the general concepts on deployment, all this. Then the last 3 days, each of you can create a free tier account in AWS and then start practicing in such a way that of course I'll be guiding you and helping you. You can even almost like start with DevOps. When I said DevOps, not like a DevOps that Linux administrator role. It's more of you have some application. How do you deploy? So this will help you if you want to be a cloud engineer, or even if you want to be a developer or full stack developer, even a tester. Because nowadays testing is no more you take a tool and do. People needs to know a lot of things. So this will help for every people. That's a context. Any questions right now before we proceed? Okay, I will take it as a no and I'll then start. So now this specific thing, I mean, I thought of preparing certain slides and I saw these amazing ones which they introduced very well. So let me use certain slides of this to teach the uh, fundamentals and the basics of that. I think I'm hearing some echo. Can someone mute? Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So most of these topics is not actually covered in this slide share thing. So this is pretty much for, I would say, just 1 or 2 days. So this guy, I think some Alvaro for some AWS thing, they prepared some various things on history of AWS, some services of EC2, Amazon S3. Then how do you do the identity management? Now people say suddenly in interviews about, okay, please explain me about IAM of AWS. We'll get blank, but that's a basic thing. You'll see. Then how does this AWS has the databases and they talk about these terms like RDS, all this. We'll come to that. Then this standard elasticity things within AWS. Whether we use it or not, it's internally there. Auto scaling, elastic load balancing. Normally you might have heard as ELB, elastic load balancing. Then this cloud watch, you might, I mean, it's again a normal concept of logging and related stuff. So I will go more deep into these things. After 30 minutes, pretty much I give a pause so that we can go on to the Q&A. So just let me maximize it so you can see the video. So if you just see a brief journey, why I'm stressing certain things of these slides is AWS is very popular nowadays, very, very popular. In fact, in my last 6 years, in general, I'm hearing more about AWS, maybe a little bit of PCF and Google Cloud. So I just checked with friends and industry guys in general. Everyone is talking about AWS, whether it is development, testing, DevOps, even big data. Maybe big data is again debatable, but still AWS is pretty popular even with Hadoop technology. So this is how the Amazon world started. They just started sometime in 1994. Then you can see the way AWS got into, and pretty much AWS was there from 2006. So they thought they will have their own cloud and then went on. Now, so what is this Amazon Web Services? To just enable to use web services to build some kind of a scalable application. Web services in the past, we used to talk about SOAP, nowadays REST API. But in general, AWS is like a cloud. When I say cloud, what I mean is it is deployed somewhere, managed somewhere. But what we see is, okay, I can get something quickly out of it. That's how we can say AWS thing. And AWS has many products. We'll discuss at least a good number of this in next few days. Yeah, and AWS has a lot of customers. And AWS started one more thing called, I think, government cloud. Now, the normal one we talk about AWS is something called private cloud. When they say private cloud, they mean not, sorry, public cloud, open to everyone. They also have something called private cloud, which they give specific to certain areas, certain companies. And cloud computing. Let me just talk one or two lines on this. Many times you might have heard about something called migration on premises. What they mean is on premises means you are managing your servers or whatever within your company on premises, on your company premises. When they say moving to cloud, what they mean is AWS will have something called a data centers. It is like a set of huge computers or say maybe thousands and thousands of computers throughout the world. India also has some AWS data center and mostly there in USA, Europe. So what they mean is they have some set of computers. Now, based on the user's request, according to the zone, let's say Virginia zone or India zone or Ireland zone, they will allocate some instances, basically virtual machine. So this entire thing they say cloud because we need to maintain the security, etc. Biggest advantage is you can get anything just quickly within seconds or even a minute. And even you can, once you are done with it, you can just dismantle. That's the main thing of cloud computing. Even though cloud or whatever, ultimately everything needs some infrastructure. So that's where it is. So you have a hardware layer and then you have servers, then there is some networking aspect to it and then security aspect to it. So pretty much if you see how the AWS is, it's mapped to the regular infrastructure. Only thing is someone is doing behalf of you, that is Amazon. Then a brief view of the various services, very popular services. So let's talk few things. Yeah, if you see this EC2, EC2, just remember it like a virtual machine. Means you get some system like your laptop or PC on Amazon. That's a basic constituent of that. Then network aspect of it, like how do you manage the connections and all these things. Then how do you keep the storage? S3 is very popular. What S3 does is it's just like your buckets in the sense like your folders in your computer. Each folder you can put lot of things, lot of files. You can just refer and use it. That's a simple storage service. We'll see in next few minutes. Then the identity aspect, by default, you hear a lot about this one, IAM, identity and access management. It's all about you have like a users there in AWS, how you can manage. Then there are various platforms. Let's not spend more on this now. Yeah, as we're discussing, they have something called regions. So they have their data centers throughout the world. That's where they normally say regions and availability zones. How we have to think is, let's say there is some US Virginia. They have some data center. They say that is a region. Within the region, if you go more into Amazon console, you will see something called availability zones like 1A, 1B, 1C. So reason here is Virginia, availability zones of 1A, 1B, 1C are like a subdivisions. That's normally we call availability zone. All these things you don't need to remember each and everything, but maybe for someone like focusing on DevOps important, developers and testers, you can just listen and take as much as possible. So this is a typical AWS regions you have, and this slides prepared by this guy Alvaro, maybe sometime 1 or 2 years back, I think still holds good, where they have AWS regions around the world. So like Virginia thing and even Tokyo, so they have subdivisions. So for Virginia, okay, I was wrong. I thought only two or three. They have, I think, five subdivisions. For Tokyo, they have three subdivisions, which is, you can say, availability zones. So it's like a region within that availability zone. Uh, if anyone knows this networking concept, internally they have that subnetting. They use, I think, CIDR. So that subnet masking, all those stuff comes into this picture internally, how they are managed. Let's spend few minutes on this very popular thing, management console. So now next we'll discuss more on this Elastic Compute Cloud, which is popularly known as EC2. So in short, EC2 is more like your virtual machine, virtual private cloud. So we need something to manage the services and access. How do you control the access? That's what Amazon says VPC. Storage services. What they mean storage services is S3. You just store anything. It's just like a file folder structure. EBS is Elastic Block Store. What they mean is now let's say normally you have a computer. You have some inbuilt actual hard disk or whatever. Now if you want more space, what do we do? Some external drive we do. So this Amazon thing is more like this. By default, they allocate some space like 20 GB or 30 GB, whatever. If you want more space, they give this option of EBS. So you can keep it as simple as that. Let's go on. Yeah, there is a various term, all these things. But main thing to remember is EC2 is like a your node. Now, if you create some free tier account, what they mean is, 1 year free account. They usually give some micro or some instance. What they mean, it will have roughly around 1 GB of physical memory and some hard disk space. You can just practice very basic things. And if you use any more powerful instances, like medium, whatever they have, then you will be charged. So by default, they have something called T1 micro. You get some limited space. In summary, it's just like a virtual machine. It's just like you have your own PC or some other machine on the internet. Here it is cloud. So that is the simplest way of thinking of EC2. Now, with respect to the facts or whatever, 2 points we need to remember. One thing is scale capacity. What they mean is when you have some EC2 instance, whatever, you can keep increasing your capacity. Whatever, you can keep adding more memory, all those things. So one thing is you can say I want this kind of instance. Say they have something called M1 or X or something. So you get more memory. But apart from that, you can keep adding more memory just by adding more nodes. What they say by node means you add like multiple machines. So you get the benefit out of it. Then the next thing is whatever the OS, Linux or Windows, you don't need to worry. So it just takes care of it automatically. Now, in a typical process, what normally people do for EC2 is you go to this Amazon console and select your region and then launch some instance. AMI is like Amazon managed instance or something. So what they mean is they say it's more like an image. So you can have a pre-built images. In this case, they give some Windows stuff, even Linux stuff, Ubuntu, all those things. You can just use it. And even you can create your own AMIs, which is also known as snapshots. What they mean is you have some, say, Linux. You wanted to have some specific applications. Now, you use this name as my own AMI. Now, you can say this new AMI can be used to your own company's applications. So that is called custom AMI, which you can make it. So they give that option in AWS. And pretty much Azure and other clouds also have these concepts later. So typically, let's spend a few minutes on this architecture. Typically, how this AC2, all these things work. Now, you have AMI. So either you take a AMI from Amazon or else you create your own AMI with Linux or whatever. Now, by default instance, say some space. In our context, some kind of machine area is stopped. So you can trigger it or whatever. So internet, the way it works is, you can see this thing below S3. What they mean in this is, you just have some space to store it. S3 is like a file structure. EBS is more like a, what to say, extended storage, more like our portable hard disk, something like that. Now, there is layer, VPC. What they mean is this area is like a protected. To someone to come into this, you need to pass through some firewalls and all those stuff. So you can say you're controlling the access in this way. So that way you're measuring the security of it. Now, from the beginner's point of view, you don't need to worry much about VPCs, all those things. Just like, yes, this is some space where your machines are there and can interact with public internet or outside world. So you can keep it as simple as possible. This is the typical life cycle of an instance, like starting state, shutdown, all those things. Ah, I want to touch a bit on this. Now I think it's much more things we have. So basically, this AWS marketplace is like you have some system. Now you have some specific tool or something which is very popular. By default, it's not there in your Amazon instance, whatever AMI instance. You can do like an add-ons with various products, all those things. So that's where they say AWS Marketplace. If you have used any tools like Eclipse or whatever, you might have seen Eclipse Marketplace or Eclipse install add-ons. This is something like that. It's like you just add on something. The moment you select some add-ons, obviously certain things are paid versions and you will be getting more charge out of it. But many companies use many add-ons based on their requirement. Typically, AWS uses very powerful process, but they do have some instance types which is very basic. So AWS has so many types. We normally, let's see this thing. I think they have in their documentation also. They have so many instance types, so which we can choose from that. This is very, very powerful. You are getting almost 2 terabytes of memory, physical memory. It's massively powerful. So this will cost so much, and this is for very, very big deployments. Yeah. So most of the time you will not be using any of this. Yeah. Sometimes you might be using the M series. It is called general purpose series. So has certain, what to say, less limitations. But if you want more powerful, you need to go with somewhere like C series or X kind of instances within Amazon. But normally you'll be using either M or even T also. You will get some performance out of it. So these are the typical EC2 instances. Yeah, general purpose M3, M4. So it's M3, M4 has some differences, but main point is anything if you see MRT, it means less capacity, which has like less memory and less hard disk space. As you go higher, your power increases. It's more like you have a powerful computer and also more capabilities increase in terms of memory and more cost increase. So this is like a EC2 instance types within AWS. This is some information. How do you get the instance data, all this kind of thing. How do you use if you want some kind of user data onto different OS, just as information? How do you manage it, kind of thing? So we spent something on EC2. Now, important part of EC2 is like let's wait, just note it down so that we can remember. Yeah. So EC2. At a summary, what are the main things you can say? There are many instance types, like a general purpose, something of M series, or even T series. Then it can go on. Then you have very high performance, like X series, something like almost 2 TB of memory. And EC2, in a summary, is more like a, you can say, like a virtual machine. It's like a virtual machine on the cloud. Like virtual machine, you just get some information. And EC2 kind of thing is also known as IaaS, infrastructure as a service. We'll see other things. PaaS, platform as a service, which is Elastic Beanstalk. Then we'll see FaaS, function as a service. You might have heard something called Lambda. This is completely different. So we'll see those things. But EC2, you can take it in this way. It's more like you get some instance and you need to manage everything around it. So you will see these terms like VPC, IAM, but this is not more important. So this is good enough for you to remember at a high level what is EC2. Now let's move on to a bit of networking out of it. I'll stop probably after another 20 slides. Then we can have some Q&A. Let's move on. So when we use the PaaS, platform as a service kind of thing, we don't need to worry into all these things. But at a general, basic beginners level, yes. What we need to see with VPC is this thing. You get some isolated virtual network. What they mean is you have control over your environment, like you can give access to who can use it, all those things. So they have this standard networking stuff of subnet, all those things. In summary, what you can remember is you have some set of IP addresses. Then within them, you can classify in such a way that you have plenty of systems within your capability. So it's like you can manage, you say, I will, whatever the pool of IP addresses I have, I'll say some set of addresses is used for team one, another set of addresses used for team two, like that. You can internally classify that power you get, networking power. Let's see some general example of how these things work. Don't worry about the terminology, all these things. Let's go with this diagram. So now, from a layman's perspective, from let's say I'm somewhere here in the internet. If I look at from the outside perspective, what we can see is AWS, outer layer. So it's like everything is within AWS. Now within AWS, there is something called VPC. Now, whatever the systems you have, some servers, your regular machines, whatever, everything is under certain. So VPC. Now what we can do with this VPC control is you can say something called inbound outbound means from your place to whom you can access to. Let's say you can access anywhere. Now let's say from someone coming from outside, you have to pass through this and you cannot allow everyone. You can only allow certain ports, like for example, HTTP port number 80, and the SSL port for security SSL exchanges, 443. Like that, you have a control of who can access yours. So this much is enough in this diagram. Like you, whom you want to connect to the outside world, and from the outside world, what through which means they can connect to you. This is normally called as inbound, outbound terminology. You can manage all those. Let's keep it to that much. Yeah, it's the same thing in a more detailed way. Let me not get into this security deep part now. I can just spend something. Uh, this is good enough. Software VPN. Basically, what you can do is, in general, whatever AWS provides is very good thing. If you want something more to that, you can have a virtual private network at your company area and you can link with Amazon. So you can go to that much deep level if you want. You can do it. But for a basic networking, this is good enough. I think let me pause here and let me go for what are the questions you guys have. Do you guys have any questions? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. Yeah, now session is open to questions. If you have anything, like you might have understood certain things, you might have not understood anything. So each of you, like you can just ask in general if you have any questions right now, as of now. If you don't have questions, then I will ask. Okay. Let's see the general understanding. Um, okay, Sai, Krishna, Minali, and Manmeet. So Manmeet, what did you understand so far? Okay, does anyone wants to say what is EC2 in AWS or what is VPC in AWS?
VPC is like virtual private cloud.
Yes.
So we use it for the networking connections. For the secure transferring of data, we can configure IPsec VPNs, or we can configure direct connect for the VPCs. And EC2 is like Elastic Cloud computing.
VPC, whatever you said is fine. Yeah. What is, sorry. Yeah, VPC is fine. But what is EC2? Yes, Elastic Cloud. And anything you want to add apart from that?
I'm not sure about
No, that's
anything.
fine.
Adding.
So now let's come
Okay.
to the basics. So
Okay.
any of you,
Yeah, I used to launch virtual machines on cloud.
okay, and the session might disconnect. We might have to connect again because it's a free session. So if you disconnect, you just join again. I'm just telling you. Yeah, go on, guys. Yeah, go on. Your name is Minali, who are talking? Yes, no?
Yeah,
Go on.
that's me.
You're saying some virtual machine. Okay. If it is virtual machine, then what is difference between the virtual machine you can have in your system and the virtual machine in this AWS? Anything can you differentiate?
Probably this works with the concept of pay as you go.
Exactly. Then
And and also this involves the scaling up and down.
yeah, scaling up and
Using
down
the
is very, very big terms because that's requires a lot of depth. Yeah, but you said fine. But main thing here is yes, one thing is pay as you go. Other thing flexibility. Now, when you say your own virtual machine, you need to again maintain a central server to maintain your Windows or Linux or let's say Ubuntu or whatever the images you call snapshots normally we say. Whereas here everything is done by Amazon. When I say Amazon does for you, it's like they have the concept of AMI, uh, Amazon image or whatever. So you can have your own custom images. Amazon by default has certain things like they say Amazon Linux, which is actually internally, if you go, it's kind of a CentOS, more similar to Red Hat thing. Then they have Ubuntu, Linux wise. Then they have some more stuff, and the Windows also supported with some license or all those things. So now point is, you can create your own custom AMI. Let's say you take a base Ubuntu and you install your own some specific softwares, which will be very, very useful to you. So this kind of capability is done very, very easily just like our normal virtual machine. And on top of that, you have all these things. You configure your own network, everything, and which is like a reusable thing. We will see one more topic maybe in next couple of days. They have something called cloud formations. What they mean in Amazon is it's like they bring this concept of reusability. You might have heard in the modern times, hey, do you know the tool called Terraform? So basically, what Terraform does is you can set up this AWS instances so quickly with some just a simple script on the fly. That is a generic thing. Terraform works with so many clouds, Amazon, Google, all those. Whereas cloud formations is more specific to Amazon. It's like a you create something and you record it. It became a cloud formation script. You can reuse it. So this guys, on top of the regular virtual machine, you have the capability. One thing is yes, as you mentioned, pay as you go. Other thing is they're providing the other set of services you can manage. So that's a main thing of virtual machine in the cloud here. Yeah, yes, Minali and Sai, pretty much you have covered the basic stuff, what you need to remember. When no one experts in general to explain all these points, but yes, if you're able to say a little bit, that's good enough. And others, were you able to understand or not at all? Manmeet, Sai Krishna, Sandeep.
Yes, Raghu. I can able to understand somewhat, but I think I want to do some other background to learn much more. Like I got an idea on the EC2, EBS, and VPC like that, and just wanted to dig deeper.
Yeah, right now it's just the very initial stuff we started. In next few days, we'll go more deeper in the sense we'll touch on various concepts, not just concepts. I mean, we can talk all these concepts for days together. We'll see more on practically. The way we'll see practically is you will literally create. I mean, either you can use your own accounts or I will just use mine and you can just see it. So it will be like I'll be deploying some applications. Application in the sense maybe Java or Python, whatever, so that you will see typically how to deploy in AWS. We'll get that as an idea. Uh, any of you guys, anytime used AWS to deploy anything before? Sandeep?
No, Raghu, I never. This is like
So I know some of you are into QA and automation as well, but are there any developers or DevOps kind of people? I mean, who are interested to become that side?
Yeah, I'm totally into DevOps.
Okay, fine. So now let's see from your perspective. Now, when you say, I mean, we'll see your perspective in the sense, okay, whether it is developer or tester, DevOps, whatever, all of you should know when you have an application, how do you typically deploy in AWS? What are the various modes we see? So my plan here is once after introducing these various concepts, we will deploy an application in Amazon and manage a simple Lambda service out of it. Then we'll use all these modes. EC2 will use by default, which is like a virtual machine. Then we use the concept of elastic beanstalk. When I say elastic beanstalk, what it does is like internally it creates EC2 for you, but everything is on the fly. So it's more like a automated for you, which normally we say PaaS. Uh, Platform as a service. This one I was referring to, elastic beanstalk. This is one thing. And then EC2, EC2 was more initial way. Then EB, elastic beanstalk. Then this Docker way of containerization. There's so many options, ECS or EKS or even AWS Forget. So we'll focus on this. So my plan is to introduce the basics, to touch on various things, and then spend the last 3 days to make it more interactive and deploy this kind of things. You might face some issues also. Of course, you can discuss and ping all those things fine. But yeah, That is the objective as of now. If you have something else in mind, of course, you can tell me now or you can discuss later on. That is a plan. Introduce the concepts of AWS, how it is working, all those things. And typically in the cloud deployment, how it happens. And along with this, we'll also use one CI/CD method, continuous integration and continuous delivery deployment thing. We'll use Circle CI. It's also quite easy to do. We'll use one of Circle CI. Oh, Jenkins is again a bit hectic to deploy. This one is quite easily integrated with a simple example. So we'll see that. So basically, we'll try to deploy it and we'll see the CI/CD also. Does any of you know what is CI/CD? Hello?
Yeah, continuous integration, continuous deployment tool.
Okay, good. Nice. But anything further can you tell about it?
Yeah, which allows your application to be built and generates the executable files and then
No, let's
deployed onto the environment.
okay. No, let's do this actually. There is something called various stages. No, you said basic level fine. Once you do it, actual deployment, then you will remember and like I mean, you will know. You will know in the sense you will get a flow. What is the code? How is it being deployed? And when something goes wrong, how do you know workflow? That entire cycle of CI/CD. That we will see. That is the as of now plan. And if you have any other ideas or suggestions, you can do. And if you have any questions, also you can just ping me later. You have that WhatsApp with you, and also if you want, you can reach me on by email if you want. Uh, uh, gmail.com. Yeah. Or you can even
Yes.
use Annarago.gmail. Yes. Yeah. Any questions?
So do we also go through building a pipeline to CI/CD?
Yeah, we'll do that. Yes. In fact, nowadays in the modern way, what I feel is whether you are tester, developer, whatever, DevOps is a thing. In fact, DevOps has more evolved. Nowadays, DevOps is more called branches, net DevOps, network DevOps, sec DevOps. It is expanding like anything. So it's just various things. What I feel is everyone, whatever the work you do, you should know what is a DevOps because that is becoming pretty much part of everyone's life. Yeah, we'll see that. Yes. In fact, we'll not go deep into writing an application, but yes, we'll take a simple application, maybe a couple of them, and see how we can deploy into these modes of AWS and also how we do a pipeline job. Yeah. Any further questions here, guys? Okay, if no other questions, then we can close the meeting.
Okay.
And so tomorrow we'll go a bit more into S3 and other topics of AWS. After that, we'll see this databases within AWS. There is a terminology called RDS, Relational Database as a Service. We'll see those things. Then last 3 days we'll go more into this deployment.
Okay.
Let's stop the recording.